Welcome back. A total of 11 Israelis, including 9 children, were freed yesterday as part of a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. 10 additional hostages are expected to be released today and another 10 tomorrow, as the ceasefire is now extended for at least 2 more days. Only one Israeli-American dual citizen has been released so far. No other Americans. Meanwhile, Iranian-backed proxy forces launched at least 73 attacks on U.S. military bases in Iraq and Syria, all since just October 17th. Let's get the Senate view. Joining me right now is Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations, Appropriations, and Banking Committees. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Great to be with you, Maria.
So you have an op-ed, a new op-ed on FoxNews.com titled "Biden Funding Both Sides of Israel-Hamas War." Tell us about it.
Well, it's pretty obvious, Maria. You've got the Biden administration that is saying one thing and yet doing another. It's fairly typical for their foreign policy. What the Biden administration is doing and has continued to do is send, quote, humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, including into Gaza. When I was over right after the 11-day war in May of 2021, Prime Minister Netanyahu and his staff briefed me on what the Hamas leadership was doing with those funds. They take the funds, they call them, quote, taxation. They take the funds, they take any produce that comes in, even take pipes and infrastructure and turn those into bombs and weapons and rockets that they use to launch right back into Israel. We're funding both sides of the war. I had Secretary Blinken in front of me just a few weeks ago, and I asked him point blank, can you assure me that the humanitarian aid that we've sent to Hamas has not been used as weapons to come back to Israel? He couldn't do that. So we're funding both sides of that. We're the same way that we're doing in Ukraine.
Well, I mean, and which leaves me to ask about all of this money that the president wants to send to Gaza. We know that this $106 billion security supplemental request is one of the priorities. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he's going to bring the $106 billion spending package to a vote next week. That bill would fund Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Taiwan, and perhaps allocate money for illegal migrant processing. Schumer, though, is slamming Republicans who want to add policy changes at the border to that package. Watch this.
The worst thing we can do is to make something as bipartisan as Ukraine aid conditional on partisan issues that have little chance of becoming law. Sadly, that's what may well be happening right now, because the biggest holdup to the national security supplement is an insistence by some Republicans, just some, on partisan border policy as a condition for Ukraine aid.
Senator, what about that? Your reaction to Schumer, and where do things stand with this package?
I think Schumer's going to find out it's well beyond just some Republicans. It's all Republicans want to see this border fixed now. It's a complete catastrophe. The Biden administration continues to look the other way. The greatest national security crisis we face right now, Maria, and you've been the best of all reporting this, is what's happening at our southern border. So if Chuck Schumer wants to send funds to Ukraine to help them defend their border, he's going to have to certainly deal with the fact that Republicans want to see our own borders enforced. So I don't know where Chuck Schumer gets this notion that it's just some Republicans. It's all of us that want to see this fixed.
Well, I mean, it's even more than that. He's talking about, putting conditions around money to the board in this package so that money can go to the border. And yet the Wall Street Journal this morning with an op-ed from the editorial board titled "Democrats Want Conditions on Israel." And they write that Israel agreed on Monday to a 2-day extension of its truce with Hamas to gain the release of more hostages, a priority of President Biden. But another idea gaining ground among Democrats that is more dangerous is putting conditions on U.S. aid to how Israel conducts its war of self-preservation, writes the Journal. Is that what you're hearing from your colleagues on the left? They want conditions?
I've just been hearing this, and I'm not surprised. It's this both-sidism that the Biden administration is trying to pursue with respect to Israel. What we saw happen on October 7th was a complete disaster. It was a humanitarian crisis beyond proportion. It's nothing like this has happened since the Holocaust. Yet they want to come back and create this sort of equivocation and moral equivalence, suggesting that the Israelis are the ones that are at fault here. I think that's not the case at all. We should be very clear. We're not imposing those sort of conditions on Ukraine aid. Why would they try to impose these type of conditions on Israel? They're present. They know best what to do. We need to deal with this. We need to deal with it quickly. Yet the Democrats want to wring their hands and try to, again, play both sides of this issue.
So what's the bottom line on this security supplemental package? $106 billion is broken out to include $20 billion in aid for Israel and Gaza, $60 billion that the White House wants for Ukraine, and an additional $10 billion toward the border. But that's not changing any policy. It's just money for the border, which likely will be used to build more housing for the migrants.
Now, what they need to realize is that the border has to be addressed. And the Republicans have had it. We're at a point now where I think the House has spoken very clearly about this. We need to speak clearly about this here in the Senate as well. We should not move forward at all until we have serious resolution of the situation at the border. And that has not come from the Democrats at all. They've talked about it, they've talked around it, but they're going to have to address it head on. Particularly if they want to address the situation in Ukraine, they're going to have to deal with the situation at the border. I think there's been, broad consensus on Israel. We saw the bill that came over from the House. They're ready to move on it. I think we're ready to move on it here in the Senate. That's bipartisan. But to address the situation at the border, we've got to get our heads together here. Republicans are united in terms of wanting to see the border fixed now.
So are you saying no money to Ukraine until the border is fixed?
Absolutely, Maria. We need to deal with this, and we need to make certain.
Yeah, because I want to show you this video that we have here. Hundreds of migrants riding on top of a train in central Mexico. They're headed toward the southern border. Listen to them cheering. Watch this. Senator, they're sitting on top of the train. The Department of Homeland Security is focused on the preferred pronouns of illegal migrants instead. The Heritage Foundation obtained this memo, and it shows that agents are being told they can't use he, him, she, her until they are certain that migrants, whatever migrant they're talking about, goes by those pronouns, Senator. So this is what the Department of Homeland Security is focused on. Use of these pronouns while we have another caravan, a train of people on top of the train coming from Mexico to the southern border, on top of the 7 million people who've been let in on Joe Biden's watch.
Yeah, it's incredible. We have an invasion at our southern border, and we've got the Department of Homeland Security working on their pronouns, just like they're working on their pronouns over at the Department of Defense. We should be focused on lethality at the Department of Defense, effectiveness. The same at our southern border. We should be protecting our border, not worrying about pronouns as we invite people into the country. The Biden administration, again, has everything upside down.
How are you going to fix this? When are Americans going to get a break from these policies?
I think we're going to see a big change in November of 2024. Until that time, Republicans are going to be pushing back as hard as possible. The problem is we're in a minority right now in the Senate. We don't control the gavel. Chuck Schumer does. But I'm looking to my friends at the House of Representatives. Their lead on this, and I think I'm going to be here to support them every step of the way.
Yeah, so I think, a narrative is emerging of what happens to the House in 2024. Will the House go to the Democrats? And what happens to the Senate races and the Electoral College? Do you have a sense or an opinion on any of this as we head into 2024? It's not just the presidential election that's going to change things.
I certainly do, Maria, particularly with respect to the Senate. That's where I work, and that's where I have the greatest focus. I think the map lines up for us great in 2024. We've got Democrats defending 23 seats in 2024. Every year, every 2 years, I should say, a third of the Senate is up. This next cycle, 23 seats the Democrats are in, they have to defend. That's going to spread the resources thin. 3 of those seats are actually in Republican states. I think we have a very good chance of turning those seats around. I think we have a great chance of taking control of the Senate, and I'm going to focus every ounce of my effort on that. I think the House and the presidency are much closer to call.
All right, we will leave it there, and of course we'll be watching and talking with you along the way. Senator, good to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.